Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hammered Corner. In today's video, we have a beginner's guide to the short cross coinage in partnership with Spink Publishing. Spink have given me special permission to use and reference information used in the short cross coinage book written by Christopher R. Wren. A perfect little book that goes into the short cross coinages of Henry II, Richard I, John, and Henry III. Perfect for every beginner, jam-packed with lots of information that has helped me on my short cross IDing journey. So if you'd like to pick one up for yourself, I will leave a link in the video description. Now this video will only scratch the surface of the short cross coinage, and we'll look into the history, the mints and the moniers, the medieval lettering, tips on reading the obverse and reverse, going through each class, comparing classes, Continental imitations, contemporary forgeries, and even a quiz at the very end. Probably my biggest and most ambitious project to date. So let's get into it. The English short cross silver coins are named after the short cross on the reverse, which extends only to the inner circle and does not touch the edge of the coin. And the name serves to distinguish them from the later long cross coins of Henry III and early Edward I, which generally have a similar appearance. The money of this period commenced with just one coin, the silver penny, of which 240 pennies were made from each pound weight of silver. Because the penny was the only denomination in circulation, lots of transactions needed smaller coins, and cutting the coins into halves and quarters was how they got around that issue. The short cross pennies were first introduced in the reign of Henry II in 1080 to replace the very poorly produced cross and crosslets pennies, often referred to as a Telby penny, as a large hoard of this type was found on a manor farm in Lincolnshire in 1807. The short cross pennies were issued under four kings: Henry II, Richard I, John, and Henry III. So what makes this issue of coinage very interesting and a bit difficult to begin with is the legends around the coins don't match each monarch of the time. So all the legends bear Henricus, introduced by Henry II, and were also used under John and Richard. So at first they all may look the same, but with a bit of comparative work you'll begin to notice differences in the portraits. Richard and John did issue coins with their name on, but these were coins minted for France and Ireland. The English legends remained as Henricus Rex, or King Henry, for 67 years. So a small compact book, like the one produced by Christopher, are essential to first learn the monarchs and most importantly how to put them into classes. Now there was much debate in the 19th century concerning the short cross coinage, as it was believed that they were struck only by Henry II and Henry III, with coins of Richard and John not surviving for whatever reason. It was only until they studied contemporary written records that they were able to compare them to the coin, legends, and designs, and it was at that point that they realised what had occurred. Now this video will only scratch the surface, and to give you a bit of help in the introduction into this coinage. This reference book has lots of photographs, chapters, and information that will not be in this video, like the different lettering styles, coin examples, and how to learn the lettering on the short cross coins. So be sure to check out the book in the video description, and let me know how you get on with it, as I know this is an area that many people struggle with at first. I know I did. On the next couple of slides, you can see a full list of all the moniers and mints that were in operation during the 67 years. And in the book, each monier's name is written the same way as it is on the coins, the mints they were in charge of, and what coin type they appear on. On short cross coins, the monier and the mint were issued onto the reverse of the coin, allowing us to see where it was minted and who was in charge of the mint at the time of minting. Therefore, if there was a problem with the coins being minted, like underweight or overall bad quality, then they knew where the problems were happening, what mint and who was in charge of it. And there were many punishments for the moniers if any of this was to happen. So as you can see, there were many moniers operating over the four reigns, some of which bore the same name and had a slightly different abbreviation on the coin. It's a very hard skill to master when you first begin to try and teach yourself to learn the mints and the monier abbreviations, especially when the coins that are clipped or cut to make it that much more of a challenge, or they could be very worn. And in the book, next to each mint and monier, is the accompanying class that they're attributed to, as seen on screen. So if you think you have found your mint and monier combination but unsure of the class, you can have a look in the book, look at the monier's name, and next to it will be the class, and then you can cross-reference it to your answer. So let's take an example from the short cross book. Let's take Ricard B as our example. On the left we can see the exact format and style of lettering that would be used on the coin, and in the middle we can see the contemporary name and style. So then we can see on the right that the monier's name only appears on coins from classes 5B to 5C. So that dates our coin to the reign of King John. You can then look at the obverse and reverse and use other features to place it into the right subclass. And the same goes for the mints too. In the book, if your coin reads the Canterbury Mint, then there is an incredibly helpful list that tells us the monier combinations that that mint is paired with, and the classes too. So it really is a matter of trial and error, and adapting yourself to read the crude style of lettering. So that nicely leads us on to the next part, where I will quickly show you a couple of key points to look out for when it comes to medieval lettering styles on short cross coins. Now, when you begin to learn and read medieval lettering, you may feel that no matter how long or close you look, you'll ever get the hang of it, especially worn examples. So to help you get started, be sure to buy yourself a good magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe that will allow you to get closer to the coin and make the reading of the letters a lot easier, and make sure to give yourself plenty of light too. It is also important to understand the form of the letters and how they were used in this period. For example, during this time there wasn't the letter U, and the letter V was used instead. The letters V and I are also used for letters I and J, and the letters Q and Z do not appear on the short cross coins. And finally, the letters K and R are easily confused and mistaken. So the table on screen shows the general lettering forms, as well as the varieties or changes in lettering styles. Some letters on individual coins may be badly formed, or have elements missing as they were made up of using several punches when making coin dies. And something that confuses a lot of beginners, including me, is that the letters can also be ligated, or joined together. That can make it very difficult to ID at first. So as you can see, even when you see the contemporary lettering styles, there are also many variations for a handful of them. So for example, let's look at the letter N. We have the regular N. We then have the reversed barred N, where the bar in the middle is reversed. We then have the double barred N with 2 bars in the middle. We then have the pellet barred N that has a small pellet in the middle of the bar, and so on. So once you buy your short cross book and study the different lettering styles, monier and mint abbreviations, you will soon master the reading of these complicated beauties. So just as an overview, on screen now you can see the monarchs with the class type and subclasses that are attributed to them. Henry II fits into classes 1, Richard I then fits into classes 2, 3 and 4, King John fits into classes 4, 5 and 6, and Henry III fits into classes 6, 7 and 8. And just remember that the classes of Henry III are just for his short cross coins, as his later long cross coinage have a different class system altogether, and that's just something to think about. And Christopher R. Wren also wrote a small book on that too, but hopefully that will be coming in the very near future. So as you can see, some of the classes overlap. For example, Richard I fits into classes 3 and 4, and King John fits into 4, 5 and 6. And this is because the class 4 was a transitional period, of which Richard I's coin stop and King John starts. So unfortunately for us numismatists, it's not as easy as, okay, one monarch is class 1, one monarch is class 2, one monarch is class 3. There are some overlapping classes that you need to look out for. But that's a bit more advanced, so we won't get into that in this video. Information in the video won't even cover 1% of the information in Christopher's book, so be sure to pick one up for yourself and use this video as a vehicle to start your short cross interest and how uncomplicated it can be with the right reference material. So we can describe the basic layout of the short cross coins as a crown bust of the king facing with beard and hair, sat within an inner circle and holding his scepter. We can see the legend running clockwise starting at 10-11 o'clock position between the inner and outer beaded circles and reads Henricus Rex, or King Henry. Some key features to look out for: the crown, the hair curls, the beard, the scepter positioning. Another point to look out for that can determine the short cross's class and subclass is the positioning of Rex around the scepter. More often than not, the scepter splits the R from the EX, but there are variations where the scepter splits the RE from the X, and so on. The classes and subclasses are variations of this description. So just before we look at the classes, let us look at how we tackle reading the short cross reverse. At the very top of the coin we have the initial mark, which will be some type of cross. We have 2 beaded circles. The inner circle homes a voided cross with the cross pommel-like cross with pellet ends in each quarter. Between the inner and outer beaded circle we have the coin legend that will tell us the mint and the monier combination. And this will help us find the city that the coin was minted in and the name of the man that was in charge of the mint at the time. So what can I do to make it easier for you to work out where the legend begins and where it ends, and what letters make up the mint and the letters that make up the monier? Firstly, the monier's name starts the legend to the right of the initial mark, or the cross. But what if there isn't one, as my example is worn or clipped? Well, what I do is I look for the word on. So when we lay out a coin legend, we have the monier's name, the word on, and the mint. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, our coin reads Henry on Lund, translating to Henry at London. So I always search for the word on, and I know that the mint word begins after it, and the monier's name's before it. And that is another way that I can read the medieval lettering. So I hope this helped you a little, and is something that I like to do to help me, and has given me a great starting point. And another little tip, grab yourself a pen and paper, and try to write out all of the words that you can see. That way, even though you might not be able to see it as it curves around the coin, but if you have a few letters, you might be able to piece something together. And then, if you can see that you've got a couple of words starting with certain letters, go to Christopher R. Wren's book, go to the money or the mint section, have a look at the two letters that you think you've got, and see if any of them match. You can always take photos of your coins and draw around the letters on a tablet or your phone. Big thanks to my friend Robert Fox, as this was one of the first bit of advice he gave me almost 2 years ago when I first began collecting. So we will start by looking at class number 1. So class number 1 was minted during Henry II's reign when he established the short cross coinage, and was minted between 1180 and 1189, but all the dates are rough guides and further research may put these into different dates. So these are split into 3 classes, of which subdivide into lots of different classes too, all of which have a very distinctive design, and the bust has an appearance of facing slightly left, from the practice of showing more hair curls to the right than the left of the face. Throughout class 1, the style and execution of the dies gradually deter, and the details are coarsened. Some of the differences that make up each subclass is the difference in the lettering, like the square C's and E's in the 1A subclass, or the serifs added to the 1A star. We also use the pellet in the legends to determine the subclass as well. There is a big description and illustrations in the book that will help you further. We then have class 2, that is believed to have been minted at the very beginning of Richard I's reign, circa 1189 to 90. It was believed to have been produced at the very end of Henry II's reign, but this still leaves numismatists with the many questions, as this is their best estimate. These are often distinguished by the use of many small curls to represent hair and a rounded appearance to the face. The king's beard is also formed of small curls. It usually has 5 pearls that make up the crown, but there are examples that bear 6 or 7 pearls too. The ends have serifs on the end, or to you and me, the beginners, are small flicks at the end of each letter. We also see the letter X in form of a cross pomme, with pillar ends that look like this. The book also gives up the mints that are found on each class too, which is really useful. So if your coin is at the Durham Mint, but you think it's a class that doesn't show the Durham Mint, you know that it has to be a different class, and that could really help you. So, now we move on to class number 3. So class 3, estimated to be minted during the years 1190 to 1194 under Richard I, and it's quite a large class with a considerable amount of variation in style, bust size and hair curls. We now have 3 or 4 curls to both sides of the face, and some later issues are found to have pellets at the end of some of the curls. We usually have 7 pearls that make up the crown, and since the publication of Christopher's book, there have been subclasses added that vary by bust size, etc. Next we have class 4, which is a transitional class, as we have classes attributed to both Richard and John. So it was estimated that this class was minted for 10 years between 1194 and 1204, where John ascended to the throne after the death of Richard in 1199. There is great variety in this coinage. So King Richard I's coins are believed to have been attributed to classes 4A only, and further research pins John's coins to begin in classes 4B and C. Class 4A is similar to class 3, but now instead we have pellets as his beard instead of curls, as we see on screen now. Class 4B sticks with the pellet beard, and throughout the development of this class we start to see fewer curls as hair, from class 4A that has 3 curls, and 4B that has a singular curl each side. Now we have class 5, of which is probably the most common coins of John's reign. These are thought to have been minted between 1204 and 1205 to 1208/9, and following major changes to the mints in 1204, the style of the coins were improved for a period, and the early coins in this class have a similar appearance to that of class 1. Class 5 now have 2 crescents each side of the face and are often found with a pellet underneath. The beard is also made up of singular strokes instead of pellets found on Class 4, and within this class we see a change in the style of lettering too. Christopher has written an incredibly helpful write-up of each subclass that I won't get into in this video, that details what to look out for, where that part is on the coin and how it differs from other subclasses, and without the diagrams and explanation he gives, I wouldn't have been able to ID a lot when I first began. Now we have Class 6, that were minted for 9 years between 1208 and 9 to 1217 to 18, that have the most subclasses attributed to it, and includes coins from the reign of John and Henry III, as they transitioned in and out of power. And it is believed that King John's coins are attributed to classes 6A and 6B, and 6C is the very start of Henry III's reign. So these coins are split up into 5 main subclasses, and each subclass has their own separate variants too. Now the changes that make each of the subclasses are small in the early coins, like the change in the formation of the letter X in the legend, how round the face is, and how the strokes of the beard radiate away from the face. Something that I think is very hard to distinguish and will take me, personally, a long time to notice them on coins, especially when the coins are of crude manufacture or maybe worn from circulation. Some of the subclasses are more pronounced than others, with bigger differences that are easier to see. For example, the class 6B2 has a very narrow face with a pointed chin, compared to others of the same class. So these are lots of key points to look out for, and every coin you see will help you remember the different subclasses and classes. And now we have class number 7, where coins from this class are very common and numerous examples have survived 800 years for us to study. This class is very large and many writers have sought to derive suitable subdivisions, and there are way over 11 subdivisions of this class now, and these are split by the lettering styles, form of the nose, scepter head, the eyes and the general style. But to categorize these simply, they are split into 3 main groups, 7A, B and C. So there is so much to this class in the book and other references, so links to all these books will be in the description for you to research only on class 7 alone. And I really hope by this point in the video that you're starting to see the differences in the portraiture, the issues, the subclasses, etc. And your eyes are drawn to different parts of the coin that will help you ID these further into subclasses. And finally we have class 8, the final class minted between 1242 and 1247 until the production of the long cross was issued. This was where the short cross was redesigned, and in order to deter clipping, the cross was extended to the edge of the coin. This is the last class in the series and are divided into 2 main subclasses, with many variants using the form of the letter X and the initial crosses. Coins of this class are quite scarce, although 141 specimens were found from the Naxos or Greek hoard, which were sold through the UK market some years ago. Looking through the short cross book, each of the subclasses talks about the development and the change of the letter X, from cruel-shaped in class 8B1, or the X being formed of wedges in class 8B2, and being a cross pomme in 8B3, to name but just a few. So I hope a short talk through and a comparison of each coin has helped, and you're starting to look and study the series in a different light, and those anxieties about beginning your journey have eased slightly. It's crazy how we get used to certain things. I wasn't sure when it clicked or when I began to ID these coins automatically, and when I went from not knowing the differences between each king to knowing each monarch and even some classes and subclasses. And lastly in the classes of coins we have coins from the Rhuddlan Mint located in Wales. Now these coins were produced between 1180 to 1215 at the Rhuddlan Mint in Wales. Now these are considerably cruder than other issues, and personally I don't see many of them around. On screen now we can see the mint abbreviations of this mint, and there were only 4 moniers of this mint too. Now these coins have their own class system and don't fit into the normal classification system, and have been divided into 2 groups and 5 classes based on the variations in bust style. So as you can see, these have a very distinct style and would stand out a lot even to a beginner's untrained eyes. There are numismatists that dedicate their lives to the research into the short cross coinage, so I hope you begin to enjoy it as much as I have, and other historians too. Next we have the history of the short cross contemporary imitations that were minted on the continent. Now why would other countries imitate coins of the short cross design? The English silver has always been credited by merchants from all over, as it was thought to be a purer and better quality, especially as the purity of English coins was so high. The Continental sterling coins were of lower quality silver, and the crude manufacturer saw the purity drop over the many years. So merchants were hesitant to trade with such bad quality money. So they decided to create coins that looked like the English designs, so they would be accepted and seen as higher quality coins. Quite clever really, and it really worked. But as you can see by some of the examples, even to us newbies, the portraits are very crude and are way off the mark to those minted during the 67 years, spanning across the 4 kings. Some of the examples have very bushy beards that make the bust look a bit like Master Splinter from the Ninja Turtles. Big thanks to the sterlingimitation.com for the photos and information. So now we move on to forgeries using photos and information from the same website. Now what is the difference between a forgery and a Continental imitation? Well, the imitations were sterling silver coins minted in the continent to increase the confidence of foreign merchants, and forgeries were created in order to profit from fooling the public by creating copper cord examples with very little to no silver to pass them as a sterling coin. They could design, create and use coins that were copper and gain silver in return, pocketing a lot of money as a forger. But being a forger came with some pretty horrendous consequences through the years, especially when it came to the reign of Henry VIII. Clipping silver from coins and using the shavings to use in forgeries was very popular back in the day. They used to take the silver to either sell overseas where the price of silver was higher, or used to coat the copper examples to pass as the real deal. And as you can see on screen, these became even cruder than the imitations, and their copper content really begins to show, as the coins have eroded more than the silver examples would have. Now this is a great part of numismatic history, and forgeries can sometimes be more exciting than regular coinage, and some numismatists dedicate their whole collection just to those alone. So for those who are still watching, I hope you've been inspired by all the information shown and you're really starting to feel more confident with the coinage. So on screen now is a coin representing each class, stretching 67 years, and be sure to pause and study, as we will now be looking at 10 questions with 15 seconds to answer each question. No need to write anything down, as I will give you the answers straight after, and this is just to see if any of the information you've watched has sunk in enough, and who knows, you may already know more than you think. So I'll leave these on screen for a few more seconds, and then when you're ready we will get straight into some questions. So question number 1, what city was this coin minted in? The answer is London, and as you can see on the reverse, it reads Lundy after the word on. Question number 2. What city was this coin minted in? The answer is Canterbury. As you can see, it reads C-A-N, Can. Question number 3. What king was this coin minted under? The answer is King John. Question number 4. Who is the moneyer of this coin? The answer is Gilbert. Question number 5. What king was this coin minted under? The answer is Henry II, Class 1. Question 6. What king was this coin minted under? The answer is Henry III. Question number 7. What class is this coin? The answer is Class 4. Question 8. What king was this coin minted under? The answer is Richard I. Question number 9. Who is the moneyer of this coin? The answer is Roger of R. As you can see, only one letter of the mint fits into this coin. And finally, question 10. What king was this coin minted under? The answer is King John. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed an introduction into the short cross coinage. A big thanks to Spink for allowing me to use and publish some of Christopher's work to aid my publication here today. Links to all reference materials, websites and books will be in the video description, so make sure you go down there to check them out. Thank you all for your continued support, and be sure to let me know down below if you found this video helpful. Thank you all for watching, and as always, keep collecting.